you look it up? If we're on. Just make sure the sound's coming through.
So
We can cruise through it, Lindsay.
that's the goal.
I gotta go to Hawaii in the morning, you know that.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You should be good.
I'll do pledge.
I already volunteered an hour ago, so
Oh.
at least after.
You're
No,
good,
I'll
Mayor.
prefer. Okay, welcome to the June 7th North Logan City Council meeting. It looks like we are excusing Roger Anderson and Joni tonight. We'll begin tonight with with the pledge led by Buzzy, after which I will say the opening prayer.
The audience, please rise and repeat after me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, we're happy to gather here tonight as members of our community and ask that thou would please bless us as we consider the matters before us, that we can have thy clear minds and good judgment in making decisions tonight. Please bless us to lead in a way that represents those that we serve and to keep them in mind as we make these decisions. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I would accept a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Emily, second by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We do have our March, what day? March 15th? Our council meeting minutes. And I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Buzzy. Second by Craig and Emily, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Alan, if you'd lead us through follow-up and action items.
Yes. Just jumping down through here, we'll go over the Civic Center progress at the end and also the budgets. They're part of this meeting. And then Communication Committee, there's several things going out. We'll talk about streets in a second, though. Those are the main things that we'll be sending out shortly. Water. The test pumping went well. We're looking into starting the construction of the well house. And then we just completed our sanitary survey for the year. That's a report that the state does regarding our entire water system every year, or sorry, every 3 to 4 years. Jumping down through here, sewer. We're working on our major trunk line. We'll talk about that a little bit later with the budgetary items. And then a major portion of what we're looking at is our I&I infiltration and inflow throughout the city. As I mentioned beforehand, there's several road treatments coming up. Areas of portions that we did a lot of surface treatments the last few years, slurry seals, chip seals. Now this will be a fog seal that goes over the top of those. So areas like Canyon Ridge, Wildercrest, 2300 North. I'm trying to think of what other subdivisions, but several of those roads will be they'll have a fog seal application that goes on in the coming weeks. So I think they delivered a lot of the flyers today, if not all. And then what they'll do is they'll follow up with an additional parliament message, a mass communication message to individual neighborhoods and subdivisions. And then also probably a Facebook message community wide regarding those that affect most of the community, like 2300 North. And there's also areas near the Green Canyon that will be affected.
Good call on the light board, by the way. That's gotten a lot of feedback. So I didn't even know we had one of those. So that would be fun to program sometime.
Yeah,
So it looks good.
Yes, we're just trying to get out as much information as possible so people can plan accordingly. So it doesn't disrupt it. It disrupts the least amount of people as possible as we do those surface treatments. And we'll go through the importance of those later on in this meeting in the budgetary portion. Stormwater, they're working on that grant that we received. There's a grant that Jordan and the Stormwater Department lined up for 3100 North and Main Street. It's basins there that are kind of overflow from the canals that are tied into a stormwater system there. So cleaning all of that area up, increasing the capacity. So if we have to ever divert the canals, if the canals are full, This is a major relief point that sends the water west. So hats up to them. That was a fantastic grant, $38,000 grant to perform those things. Engineering, they're part of that 3100 North Basin, the roundabout project. There's several other things, and we'll touch on those a little bit later in the meeting. Parks, they're working on that shed at Elk Ridge. That's the Pumpkin Walk shed. It's a RAPS project.
Is there a projection on when that will be finished?
I'm trying to think.
I've just gotten a lot of questions when I'm there.
Perhaps August, I think was the initial date, but I'm trying to think of probably mid-August when they'll be done. Hopefully in time for the next Pumpkin Walk coming up. The Pumpkin Walk though is fantastic. From the day of its inception and RAPS inception, the RAPS, it hits about every criteria of RAPS. It's supposed to promote communities getting together, tourism. I mean, it hits everything. 60,000 people attending that event. I mean, it's the main thing that RAPS is intended for, the spirit and intent of that RAPS tax. And we posted the splash pad hours, and those things are all starting up. Trails, we are working together. We're looking at setting up a trails committee to start going through several of those, just to organize a lot of our efforts. We've done a lot of things, but just getting everyone on the same page. Recreation, they're in full swing right now. No pun intended, because they have baseball going, and they still have some soccer. They've got Pioneer Day coming up, Ultimate Frisbee, and endless classes and things taking place, from cooking classes, Harry Potter Day, and everything else coming up over the summer. Let's jump down through here. Cemetery, they're installing the secondary water line that goes up to the cemetery above the canal. That'll be a major contributor to lowering our costs for watering to the cemetery, which will be great. Coming down through here, community development, thanks to Scott for lining up our grant that we received. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's to help recompose or rewrite the entire general plan and then tie it into our code throughout the city. They'll also be discussing the CUP and ADU ordinances, and that'll be a big portion. There's a lot of gaps, a lot of holes in that code. I think we were one of the earlier ones in getting that wrapped up. And by being one of the earlier ones, it left us open to some of the things that maybe we hadn't thought through well enough in that process. Treasurer, she's still working on sending out things, getting people in touch with the city by reaching out to the HOAs and multi-unit. I think she received the envelopes actually, so she can send that to every single resident throughout the community. Jumping down through human resources, we are working on the employee council. And thanks to Karen for working through that. A recorder, Scott's put together the budgets and the other items that we'll go over tonight. So thanks to him and working with the different department heads. Library, we were going to go through this later on in the events, but they had their summer reading kickoff. It went fantastic. It was over at Greenville with the wind and everything this Monday. So hats up to them for putting that together. It went really well. Police, we're working with them right now on the code enforcement officer. So we'll probably talk about that in the next couple of weeks and what that would entail if that goes through. Then fire department, several things that they're working on, obviously the new station construction, waiting on the new ambulance coming through. And we'll talk about the other thing tonight, which is the fireworks designation, just some of the key items there that they prepared. Sorry, I went really quickly through all of those things. Is there anything else that you have questions on?
I don't think so. All right, then we will move on to recognition of an exemplary staff member. Today that is a group of people: Ryan Campbell, Max Stedman, Ben Stedman, and Jeremy Wyatt from the Parks Department, nominated by Jordan Oldham. Ryan and his crew, Max Stedman, Ben Stedman, and Jeremy Wyatt, did a fantastic job to ensure that the cemetery was in great condition for a fabulous Memorial Day program. Ryan made sure that everything was set up and ready to go for the event. He's a vital member of the city staff, and we are grateful to have him on our team. I'll second that. I went to the Memorial Day program and it was phenomenal. Just a really great, well put together event. And let's applaud our parks crew for their role in that. Okay, we'll move on to our action items tonight. The first are our public hearings to receive input on a proposed revision to the fiscal year 2023 municipal budget and to a proposed fiscal year 2024 municipal budget. Following the public hearings, approval of resolutions may be considered to adopt proposed changes to the fiscal year 2023 municipal budget and to adopt the fiscal year 2024 municipal budget. I anticipate that being just, we'll have the public hearing tonight and consider the adoption of the 2024 budget in our next meeting. So, Alan, do you want to give us a rundown?
Yes, if that's okay, I just kind of put together a very brief budget overview. We used to have a lengthy narrative. This is kind of a summary of a narrative in the budget. And as you read through this, I'll go through this quickly. This is just an overview of how each of these budgetary items work and how they function, some minor changes. But as you go through here, these are all general, the general fund items that I'm going through right here. So community development. We already just talked about the grant that was received. Scott Perks lined this up through UDOT. It's to rewrite our general plan, which is much needed. And it's perfect timing right now to do that, to reach out to the community, start working through that as we're working through. One new requirement is also a water element of that, or a water plan. And so that ties in the general plan. So all of these things tie together and are joined at the hip, and it'll be fantastic to go through and do that with the community. Just some changes. So that is a $65,000 grant. We have a match. It'll probably go over 2 years associated with that. And then looking at parks, I know I harp on this a lot, but I mean, our parks budget, if you look at it, it's extremely efficient. That doesn't mean there isn't room for improvement. But when you're looking at surrounding communities and they have a quarter of the amount of parkland that we do, and yet they spend more than what we do on parks, that's just something to really applaud and look at our parks department for everything they do. But some of the major projects this year that obviously we talked about, the shed that we wrapped up this summer. And then the new pavilion that will be down near the the pickleball courts at the Cache Recreation Complex. Various improvements to Elk Ridge East. And those are kind of the major projects. So looking at that, cemetery, we already talked about putting the secondary water line up there. And then the other things we'll look at is the Veterans Memorial, which we're finalizing some designs and working through that. And then in the future, we need to plan where an operations shed might be located, which would probably be in the northwest corner of the 47 acres of the cemetery. Again, recreation, kind of a similar boat to parks. We have the largest recreation department in the valley, but we spend about 1/10 or 1/9 of what surrounding communities spend on recreation. I have no idea how they continue to do that at that rate, but it's just because of their extreme hard work and working with the community, collaborating, lining up grants and working well with each of the other entities that they work with. The other thing that we'll look at because of the survey results that came back is kind of the exploratory option for a recreation center. Just looking through that, could it be viable financially, and how would it be viable financially if we were to look down that route? Looking at streets, obviously, you know, a lot of the things that we've been looking at with streets, but just kind of a quick run through. We talked about surface treatments, and Colby, they've really emphasized surface treatments, and we can't overstate how important that is, because the total replacement of a road is 7 to 10 times what it costs to just simply do surface treatments over 5 and 7 year increments. So by continually putting lipstick, if you want to call it, or anything else on our roads, it literally prevents a complete overhaul. That used to be the opposite in the early 2000s and the 70s, 80s, 90s. The city's policy was let the roads just deteriorate and then completely replace them, which really is, it just overwhelms the municipal budget, because every time you do that, it's a $300,000 to $500,000 venture just to replace one road. Whereas we can handle all of the roads throughout the city by continuously doing this and doing surface treatments. So I didn't list all of the surface treatments. I just listed the major projects here, but there are extensive lists of roads that they'll be doing surface treatments on this summer. And then right after that, they'll be doing a lot of striping. You'll probably see some road striping in the coming weeks. We've also received a grant from the county for some road striping that's associated with bike lanes along 4th East, 12th East, 18th and 19th North. So that's another grant that was received. The other grants we received were for 12th East through the COG, and then a roundabout at 2500 North and 8th East through CMAQ. Those are federal air quality funds that we received that through. And then the other major projects would be 600 East if that occurs. And we've talked about that in city council, and the need was brought up by the city council regarding safe access for kids to get to school and extending that road. So that would be that's going to be an extensive project if we get to that point. 400 West, 2850 North, that's basically near Main Street, and 2300 North, that goes up to the bench. And these are all things that are in the works right now that we've been talking through. So there's other road projects as well, and they could all be kind of bumped around in that 5-year capital improvement plan. Jumping through here, general revenue. The only change here is that our central dispatch fee for emergency response, it's broken into two components. One just pays for dispatch. The other one goes towards, right now it's designated towards police services. And so $3 of that. And we've been working with the auditor to make sure that we're handling that correctly. Right now, it doesn't really mix with general funds, but we need to make sure it's either a designated account or it's its own enterprise account, meaning solely just for that, and it's dedicated to that. And then we just take the money out of that to pay for police services. Either way, we'll have an answer back on that soon. So that might be your only change between now and the 2 weeks from now, when the budget would be actually approved at that point. Jumping down through here, the only other change for general expense is a code enforcement officer. And that's proposed. That would probably be North Logan's portion would probably be around $20,000, or to 20 to 22,000. I would anticipate. We'd probably pay 75% of that employee and share that with Hyde Park. That's the proposal right now. That hasn't been approved in any way, and so that's still going through kind of that process to see if that would work. Water. Now we're getting to enterprise accounts. So accounts that should be somewhat self-sustaining, not mixing and mingling with the general fund of the city. But we're drilling the well right now. The well house would be a next option, along with the large reservoir up on the bench, which then would include transmission lines going north and west. So those are the major capital projects that would be associated with water. Sewer, the three main things would be, again, that trunk line, which the mayor lined up $1 million grant for that. We also have a bond from the DEQ associated with that. We'll probably spend our ARPA funds on that, the remaining ARPA funds that we have. ARPA is very limited as to what we can spend that on, and this is one of the things that is eligible. And then our I&I project. So I&I is a fancy way of saying inflow and infiltration, which means water that gets into the sewer system from either manhole lids or stormwater or connection, illegal connections, or infiltration, which is kind of just groundwater seeping in through the pipes or manholes themselves. But we have to pay for every ounce of water that gets into that water system or into the sewer system. Sorry. So investing in that and keeping that down really pays dividends for the city. Actually, a very large amount of the more we reduce that. And then we're also looking at purchasing a new Vector truck. That's maintenance, large piece of equipment to jet and clean up the sewer system where needed. We talked about the 3100 North project, library. The only thing that would kind of probably change, come along through the capital budget, but we would talk about that sometime later this fall. Would come before the city council, maybe a budget revision, but to go over kind of design costs and other things that we'd be looking at for the community center expansion to the library. So there's already a bond lined up that will be paid for through the Thorne Endowment, and then what other donations are raised and everything else to help pay for that expansion, which is just a fantastic option right now to have in front of us. Just the option to potentially construct and build a massive expansion with no increases or anything related to property taxes at that point. Capital, again, the city offices are the main things that we're expending this year and next year. But those are the main projects coming through capital. And then we'll kind of postpone RDA till we get to the next item. The one thing that I would recommend is the general fund is balancing right now. Essentially, anything below 200,000 at the end of the year because of depreciation, we can end up balancing essentially with the general fund. So we're down there, we're at 170 and we might even go a little bit lower than that right now. One thing I did put in here is a recommendation. I needed to clarify this and share this with you. The city council authorized a 5% raise at one of the last city council meetings, or one of the previous ones. They're not authorized, but we recommended. One thing that I would like to look into is if it would be possible to do an 8% raise. As you look across the state, they sent out a survey recently and they asked all the cities throughout the state, what are you doing as far as a compensation or an increase? And the vast majority, if not everyone, came back with their information, and the average was 7% across the board, across all the municipalities. So that's an increase. I'd say the vast majority, it's a COLA increase. So just a straight across cost of living allowance increase. In the past, the city council has more strayed away from just a standard cost of living and tried to place an emphasis more on merit based. And the reason I say that is because you really want your employees to score high in a performance review, show that they're working extremely hard, and that they deserve those increases. And it's pretty easy for the vast majority of the employees to show that with how hard they work. So it's more of a merit-based policy traditionally in North Logan. If the city council ever wanted to go away from that, that would just be a discussion that you'd have to look into. That's kind of how they look at it today, in the past, and how this has been proposed. If you look across the entire city, though, North Logan, the employees of the city average about 10 to 15% below the mean. Meaning if you took all the like positions across similar cities, not massive cities or anything else, but similar sized cities, similar sized budgets, we're usually 10 to 15% below what they're paid. There are a couple employees from I'll just point out the library that are above the mean, but every other employee throughout the city is below the mean. The only reason I recommend that is I tried to squeeze in here an 8% average. Now that's every employee won't get 8, but that would be the average across the board for the employees that would be allocated by the department heads. Sorry, this is a very lengthy explanation regarding a proposed raise, but I wanted to get the city council's feedback, and then anyone else who would like to comment in the public hearing regarding that.
Okay. Do we need to have separate public hearings for the 23 and 24?
I was asking
Yeah.
Scott, I think you do have to have one and then close it and open up the other one.
Okay, so let's open up a public hearing regarding a proposed revision to the fiscal year 2023 municipal budget. I will read the public hearing rules. Before you begin, please state your name for the record, speak into the microphone so your comments can be recorded. Limit your statements to 2 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of others, you may ask the chairperson for more time. Please phrase your opinions in the form of statements, not questions. Please address your comments to the council, not the public. In the future, note that if you have questions or need to discuss an issue, you may meet with the city council members or appropriate city staff member before the public hearing where dialogue can take place. You may also provide a written statement as your input for a hearing. You may read your entire statement or summarize it with the 2-minute limit. You may provide a copy of a written statement to the city recorder, who will make copies for the city council, and it will become a part of the public record. However, the submitted statement will not be included in the minutes of the meeting. So with that, we'll open up the public hearing on that 2023 fiscal year budget. Okay, seeing no comments, we will close that public hearing, and we will open the public hearing on the fiscal year 2024 budget, municipal budget. Same rules apply. Seeing no comments, we will close that public hearing and open it up to discussion among the council. Council, did you guys have any questions on either of those budgets?
No questions. I think the one comment for 2024 is we have wanted to consciously make an effort to catch up. So I personally am supportive of jumping that to 8. We have the ability to do it as well. Still got a ways to go, but I don't know how the rest feel, but I think that's a reasonable request for next.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Buzzy. You put it so well.
Yeah.
Now I know you don't like that opinion, Emily.
No, I agree with Buzzy. It's hard when you have to catch up over multiple years and we want to give city staff, department heads the ability to get and retain good employees. So,
Yeah.
okay,
So we're gonna
then,
table that discussion for now.
So you want us to approve the 2023
yeah.
revision though?
Mhm.
I move that we approve item 1 on this topic, the revision to the fiscal year 2023 municipal budget.
All right, motion by Buzzy, second by Craig, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Do we need to table 2024 or just leave it?
I don't think we need to table it.
You normally, what you do in this case is if the public comes through and there's comments and there's things that come before you. Right now, it gives them an opportunity to participate in that budgetary process, and then you can make changes between now and the final one. But because we didn't receive any comment and there's no comment from the public here, that's really up to you right now.
I don't know that there's a rush, right? Is there any benefit to approving it today versus in 2 weeks?
I think Roger and Joni are back. then,
Yeah.
too, so they
Yeah.
can weigh in on
It would be
that.
fine either way.
Okay, so we will table that informally. Now I would accept a motion to convene as a redevelopment agency.
so moved.
Okay, motion by Emily,
Second,
second by Buzzy, all in favor?
I
Okay, that motion's unanimous.
I move to adopt the agenda for the redevelopment agency.
I believe we need to hold a public hearing, right?
Don't,
to
aren't we
adopt the
supposed to
agenda
adopt the agenda
first.
first and then hold? a
Oh,
public
adopt the
hearing?
agenda, sorry.
Sorry.
I thought you were saying, okay,
I-
sorry about that, Emily. So motion by Emily,
second. Oh,
second by, I'll give it to Craig, all in favor?
I,
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, then we are holding a public hearing to receive input on a proposed revision to the fiscal year 2023 RDA budget and proposed 2024 RDA budget. Alan, do you want to give us any additional background on that? Or is it different from what we already heard?
No, the only change though, I need to point out any changes in here from what you've seen in the past. You are all familiar with RDAs, how they function. It's a tax increment financing used as economic development and incentives through property tax agreements with the county and the school district and also North Logan City itself. And those are used as incentives for business. The only change is that the state mandated a new fee. And that fee is right here. It's split between 2 different areas. The CDA is 250. Where's the other one? And the urban renewal area, the URA, all these acronyms under an RDA, is 250. It's $500. And so we have to take those RDA monies that we would receive. That's a new expenditure we have to pay to the state. That's just a new mandate for any RDAs. The only other change that you might see this coming year, and we'll probably have to have another budget revision, would be if a new business does come in, it would, you know how we have the new community reinvestment area? That's the latest acronym for an RDA. If a business does come in and a project, they call it an individual project for a new business that the city incentivizes with RDA monies, if that starts and those monies do kick in over a 10 or 15 year agreement is kind of the duration of most of those, then we would have to come in and specify that within the RDA budget. And so we'd have to do a revision at that time. You as the redevelopment agency would have to approve that at that time. So that's kind of how it works because we don't have any active CRA projects at this point.
Okay. All right, then I will open up that public hearing to receive public comment on a proposed revision to the fiscal year 2023 RDA budget. Seeing no comments, I will close the public hearing and open another public hearing on the fiscal year 2024 RDA budget. Seeing no comments, I will close that hearing and turn over to the council if there's any questions on that, on the RDA budget. Okay, then I would accept a motion on the fiscal year 2023 budget.
I'll make the motion to accept the fiscal year 2023 for the RDA.
Okay, motion by Craig,
second.
second by Emily, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the RDA meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Emily, second by Buzzy, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we will, do we need to reconvene the city council meeting? Okay. We are back in city council. We will move on to item number 4, a public hearing to receive public comment on the submission of an application to obtain financial assistance through the grant or loan from the Community Impact Board. The funding request will be used for culinary water studies. This would serve the North Logan City culinary water system. Okay, we'll just turn it over to Jordan to give us background on that.
Okay, so what this is, the CIB for up to 50% of a study on water. So if your community is in need of a water study, water model update, or water master plan update, you can apply for these funds up to 50%. Our estimate is that the project would cost around $75,000. And so we've made an application of half of that. And so that is what we would do. We would match this funds with water impact fees, because we can use those on studies as well. And so that would be what we would do.
Okay.
Pretty similar.
Just be available for questions if we ultimately have any. Okay, then I will open up a public hearing on this matter to discuss seeking funding from the CIB for the North Logan City culinary water system. Same rules apply. Seeing no comments, I will close that public hearing. And council, do you have any questions for Jordan?
Yeah, just one. When you say culinary water studies, you said that we could get a new water model, or is this just for our master plan?
It's for, so I'll run them through them real quick. So water master plan, water model, budget analysis, and then tank zone impact areas. It's basic and distribution system. So it's basically just taking a look at our overall system, the upgrades needed at build out, and the upgrades needed throughout the future, as well as budget forecasting for those needs. And it includes our distribution water model system.
Awesome. Thank you.
Motion to approve this application for the culinary water studies bond.
Okay.
Bond board, not bond,
Second.
assistance.
Motion by Buzzy. Did I hear a second by Craig? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to consider a plat amendment for the North Logan Industrial Subdivision at 2850 North, 300 West, relating to the phasing stage of the subdivision.
So, yeah, so I will handle this one real quick. So Mr. Jay is here in the back. So he's working on a very great project down on 400 West. He would like to, if you go to the next one. So yes, just to get some bearings on what it is that is a four lot subdivision down there, 200 West, 2800 North. He's building some great warehouses down there. And what he would like to do is break that into a 2-phase subdivision. So phase 1 is lots 2 and 3, and phase 2 is lot 1 and 4. Phase 1, he has completed some infrastructure on that, which would be roadway, curb gutter, sidewalk. And phase 2, he would additionally apply with a new set agreement and letter of credit, which he has provided, which is in this folder, which those set agreements and letter of credit would cover the 400 West improvements, as well as the 2850 North improvements and sewer and water lines that are in those areas. So it would just be, so what he's looking to do is just modify the construction phase plan. And then he will also, if you go back, there's a plat that was approved that will need that one. Yep. Amended plat to straighten out the 400 West roadway. If you guys remember back originally, that had a jog in it to the west. We approved a year ago, maybe, to straighten that out. And so he would record this plat at the same time.
Yeah, this is bringing back memories.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what he's looking to do.
Okay, any other questions for Jordan? Okay, then I would consider a motion to approve this plat amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve the plat amendment for the North Logan Industrial Subdivision.
Okay, motion by Craig,
Second.
second by Emily, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to consider an application for release of the subdivision improvement bond warranty for North Logan Village Phase 1.
It's still me again.
Okay,
You guys probably haven't heard enough from me today. So this is part of the Sierra
complex that they're building on 400 East. As you can see, those buildings on the aerial image that are in, that is phase one. Oh, there you go. Now it's starting to increase. So the buildings that face 400 East are actually in phase two. Phase one is only that building there on 2000, I believe that's
2000 north.
2000 north, and the buildings back behind. And so for this release, it's the release of their warranty period or their warranty amount, because they have surpassed the year mark on their improvements for phase one. We have inspected that with the contractor. They have corrected some of the issues that we have found, and we feel comfortable releasing the 10% warranty bond on only phase one. That's the only application they have. They will have 2 more phases, phase 2 and phase 3. They'll be coming in for release in the next 6 to 8 months, but this one is only for phase 1.
Okay, and those always require an inspection
Yep.
by the city.
And we inspect them throughout all the phases, but the final release amount of the warranty bond is due by city council.
Okay. Okay, any questions for Jordan on that? Then I'd entertain that motion.
Motion to approve the release of the subdivision improvement bond warranty for the North Logan Village Phase 1.
Okay, motion by Emily,
Second,
second by Buzzy, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous.
Thanks.
Okay, now we'll move on to consider approving the dates and geographic locations for fireworks within North Logan City in 2023. Chief, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, it's that time of year where the legislative body is required to determine restrictions for fireworks for 2023. Last year, I believe we wrote this letter, but then we discussed about lowering that border to 12, and I believe we did that. So that's the question, is that what you want to do again? Or do you want to make modifications to that? I know it's really, I mean, we've had a very wet year, and 4th of July is probably not going to be an issue. But 24th is always up in the air. That's the difficult part about this process of not having the ability to change it in between those 2 dates. We kind of have to get stuck with one. So what we've always tried to do is be as conservative as possible, and then really kind of regulate that through enforcement. So if things are really, really bad, we're enforcing a little bit more stringently. So that's really your discretion as leadership of the city to decide what that boundary needs to be.
I'm trying to remember
We
where
did do
did,
12.
yeah, we did do
The
12. I'm
boundary
trying
used
to
be
remember where,
16 east.
was it Roger that came down on
He
12?
wanted
Yeah.
it to be 12.
Okay,
It is consistent with Logan. Logan has went down to 12th and kind of keeps that consistency across the northern or the eastern bench side. Not that you would do it because they did, but it does help us from the agency that covers both to
I
be
do
consistent
the
for
consistency.
enforcement.
yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
get any pushback on that last year. I thought we might too.
Yeah.
So
and I like
it
the
makes sense.
flexibility of
Yeah.
like you, if we do have really dry July, then you can really enforce that.
Yeah, we'll still put up signs and do all the stuff we normally do, but when it is super dry, we do patrol a lot more heavily. And then, we'll use obviously the police department to help us with that enforcement as far as just driving through the neighborhoods and being actively involved during those dates and times. The dates and times, I believe, changed extended. Didn't they in legislative session
They
extend
only
the
changed
date
it for New Year's.
for New Year's? Yeah, there's one extra
4th to
day for New
25th.
Year's, different than but I don't know if that goes into effect until July.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Chief? I mean, it seems like we're already on a trajectory for heavy amount of weeds, right? So if it does dry out, we're gonna have a lot more fuel.
That's the problem.
Absolutely. And that's always the concern. That's why we're going to be cautious. We felt like that's been a safe, without incident, shows us that we're doing the right thing. It certainly could be, unfortunately, there's always that time that we're always concerned about what that's next going to be like, even without the drought. With the water, certainly has a greater growth. You can just see it across the valley.
Okay. So are we comfortable making that motion
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
12th East?
So I would motion that we approve these dates with the addition of a change to 1200 east for the geographic location.
That's not a change, it's just. the
Oh, was it in there already? Oh, I thought I
Yeah.
saw 1600 east.
Well, it does say it on this sheet. We didn't actually ever change it
just
on the
changed
sheet.
it.
So
Maintain the same.
maintain the same.
Okay, motion by Buzzy,
Second,
second by Emily, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous.
Thank
Thanks, chief. Okay, we've worked our way through the action items. We'll move on to work session items. Jordan, you again,
back.
tell us about
Jordan.
flooding preparation and
Gonna be here all
mitigation.
night. So just an update on flooding. Flooding, we had kind of a surge the last couple weeks where we had some water coming out of Green Canyon. I wouldn't say a surge. We were pushing about 1,000 gallons a minute coming out of the canyon, making it past King Park. We kind of use King Park as our measuring point because everything east of that has been infiltrating pretty heavily. And then if it makes it west, it could make it to the canal. Most of that water has not been making it to the canal. It's been hitting that gravel area and absorbing. And so the water's not quite making it to the canal. So that water has started to let up, but at certain times it comes back. So we don't anticipate any flooding with that, but we are seeing some water come out of the canyon, which is good. And as the further east you go, you go up to Green Canyon and make it almost to the yurt, and there is quite a bit of water in that canal or in the stream bed up there, but it is infiltrating as it's making its way down, which is good. The 3100 North project, just an update on that. Alan kind of mentioned it. We do have a contractor lined up and they will begin work here in the next couple of weeks. We hope to get that completed in about a month, and we're coordinating with Hyde Park City on that project. So it'll be a good project. Really nice to have that completed. So yeah.
Okay.
That's where we're at. So far, so good.
When are we going to be comfortable? Like, when will we be not getting flooding updates?
This might be it.
We're probably out of the woods.
Yeah,
I think we're out of where we have to worry.
okay. Gonna hold you to that.
We've been up Water Canyon, we've been up to the flume area where we're taking water, and it's melted off quite a bit. Coney Grove's down below 2 feet now, so.
All
I
the
think
flood, the river warnings and watches were
Yeah.
all removed on Monday.
Oh, so there you go. I was gonna say Logan River is probably the last area of
Yeah, and
concern.
it came off on Monday.
So there you go. So we're
Oh.
pretty,
I don't know if it's the
Might be out of
time to
woods.
bring this up, but we spoke with me and staff and Emily have been in a water conference all day, and we were talking about perhaps doing a city council field trip to kind of look at our wells, go up Water Canyon. So
Yep.
And
I think it'd be cool.
it is cool. It's nice up there.
we should get that scheduled.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the weather's good.
Willing to get up early.
Okay.
When?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Um,
Whoa, 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 whoa. Define early, 10 a.m.
all right, Jordan, why don't you tell us about North Logan's water capital improvement
Okay.
projects?
While I'm here, I'll cover that too.
Nothing going on here.
So as you know, we are currently in the same water conservation measures we've been in on a 3-day-a-week program. That's been working out really well. It's really kind of flattened out our demand cycle. Is this, depending on how trends go, the weather's been cool, so it's been actually very helpful. And depending on how weather goes and how use trends go, we'll watch to see if we move to that 2-day-a-week in July like we did last year, but we'll keep you updated. We've still got a lot of June to get through before we decide on that. The flip the strip we kind of talked about last time. We've had some of our guys going through some of our code so far to just see what we need to do to qualify for that. We learned today that there's maybe opportunities for more people to get money from that flip the strip program, and we may not have to convert all of our roadway cross section to 8 feet in order to qualify. So there are some things that I'm still learning about. The drilling is complete and the tests are complete on well 5. They turned out really well. We'll come back. Our engineers will come back with calculations on how they want us to pump that well, but it's looking like it'll be very similar to well 5, around the 2,000 gallon a minute production. Well 5 construction has begun. They started working on the ground today, and we should have that completed in the next few months. One of the things that, like you mentioned, Mayor, we've been in a conference the last couple of days. One of the topics that have come up a lot, and thought we put it on an update, is we want to look into water rates and seeing if we can apply those or apply them differently to the residents that are using secondary water or have access to secondary water, or their developments were developed under under the premise that their homes would be using secondary water, and if they're not, there would be a different tier rate applied to those. One other concept that came up is if we use a different tier rate for the months of like March and October to try to limit some of the use in those months. So as we go through this conference, we'll probably have a lot more public outreach and a lot more goals that we need to get through in the coming months.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's been a really helpful conference.
Yeah.
Very intensive, a lot of bonding time.
That's right. Learning a lot about everybody. Yeah, that's right. I can snap.
Okay, we'll move on. Oh, do anything more on that? Any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to updates on the Civic Center. Jordan, anything to say about that? No? Okay. Alan, do you have any updates? We haven't met for a couple weeks, so I don't personally have any updates. We'll meet again tomorrow.
Yes, the only updates right now, just in general on the city office is, if you go over there, they've started the block work. So you look at the masonry work, they've started putting in several columns going up. And that's where the gaps are for the windows. So they've started going up on each side and they'll start tying all of those together in the coming weeks. But that's exciting because that's the actual structure of the building.
I must have missed that. I was thinking that looks the same as it did 3 weeks ago or something like that, but it must have just been my imagination from the side I was coming in at.
If you drive past tonight, you'll see on the back wall closest to the city, to the library, you'll see about 3 or 4 columns starting to go up.
Okay.
So yeah, some progress. Hopefully it starts steamrolling from there moving forward or snowballing from there in the coming weeks with all the masonry work. But that's fantastic that we've got all the block and we'll move forward and it'll start to look like a building here in no time.
Cool.
Then the other thing we're working on the designs for the community center. So Adam Zerquist has been putting together some really good designs. I think it's a really good output of what he's put together, and we'll meet with library and a few other staff members to or other groups, the friends and library board to get feedback on those preliminary designs on that.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to share with the class, chiefs? Because we're on to you. Thank you.
So not a whole lot tonight, but one of the main things that we wanted to put on the calendar or make sure it was on the calendar was our National Night Out. August 1st is going to be this year at the Elk Ridge Park there. And then I was going to give an update on the last 2 weeks since we've met again last. This week we had 103 calls that our guys went to. And the week prior to that, we had 141 calls. So we've had a busy couple of weeks, a lot of medicals, a lot of accidents that we've been dealing with there on those 2 things. Other than that, that's pretty much what we have for right now.
Okay. Any questions for chief?
No.
Okay. Thanks a
What-
bunch.
Chief, what time was the police night out? Sorry.
What's that?
What time was it on the first?
6:30, I believe.
6:30. Okay.
That'll be a good night. We're going to have the dunk tank like we did last year. We're planning on that and then the handouts. Yeah.
Did we
I
get
guess
to
A little
choose?
warmer than it was last.
Oh,
Last year was
man.
very cold.
that was
Done
a
my service.
lot of people love that. So
Let's get Craig on there, his last thing.
Yeah.
okay, that's all I have.
man. The duct tank.
Okay. Thank you, chief. Chief Hannig, great.
Just, you should be receiving your monthly report from Jelaine any day now. Just overall, we're up about 8% for the year, for call volume, which is consistent with what he was just saying. We just finished this past week having Swiftwater training in Logan River. That's a rarity to do it right in the middle of the city, but with the levels where they were, our crews are prepared to do any kind of Swiftwater that's necessary. So, we're glad to get that completed. That's
Okay,
it.
Great.
Oh, the airport. Oh, we did do ARF training too. So 2 weeks ago, all week was our airport rescue firefighting training, which we have to do annually, live fire training. We had crews out there all week, doing live fire and being prepared for any airport, any airline crash, which, is significant. It could be possibly happen in North Logan where the airport is located. So, that's another element of our responsibility to be able to cover that type of incident. And so our crews are again prepared for that. Thanks for the reminder.
Thanks, chief. All right, Scott.
Okay, just one last final reminder, if anybody wants to go to the mid-year cash summit, we have to have tickets by the 9th at the very latest. So if anybody else wants to go to that, let me know. And then just a real quick update on the general plan. We did submit the scope of work to UDOT. They are reviewing it as we speak. I'm hoping to get word back from them any day. Once that has been approved by UDOT, then we can finalize our RFP and submit that for advertisement. So probably keep that out for 30, 40 days or so, and then we'll see what responses we get. But then we'll be off to the races. So that's kind of a rough timeline. And then we'll talk more about this water conference, maybe at a future meeting, just a recap.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to Jordan. Anything else? No. Scott?
Okay, Canada finally ended today. We did have 8 individuals file their Kennedy declarations, so we'll have a primary election August 15th.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. How do we, Scott, do we usually do any official events between now and the primary? I know we do meet the candidates in the fall. Sorry. You can probably talk loud enough.
Okay. No, we have the Meet the Candidates Night, September 28th, which is before the general, but prior to the primary, we're allowing the candidates to decide if they want a vendor booth, and they can sign up for a vendor booth at the July 24th festivities.
Okay. No, thank you. All right, Marie. Okay. And Alan?
I'm just going through updating this.
I'm assuming that's usually like at 7.
Yeah, what time do we do the meet the candidates night?
Last one you
It
did
was
right before
6
city
last time,
council.
yeah, it was like-
6?
It was early, yeah, it was like 5.
Okay,
I want to say it was,
It was before city.
What's
council.
that in?
before city council.
What date was the voting primary? Is it August 15th, 14th?
15.
Sorry, just entering a few things. We've gone over the Memorial Day. It went fantastic. Summer reading kickoff. We probably, I'll send out an email. Maybe we just need to set up a date that works well for Colby because he's got so many projects coming up. But to let the council be a streets department employee for a day, it's more like an hour is what we'll shoot for.
it's probably good.
And then we probably need to schedule that tour of Water Canyon. And what we've discussed during the water conference is a lot of people don't know that the North Logan City was established because of water and the significance of Water Canyon and the individual key players that were involved in that decision-making process to move forward with North Logan City as a community. It's a pretty fascinating story. And so going up there, seeing where the water comes from, the importance of that to the community, it's pretty fascinating what they went through to establish the community. So we'll plan that and I'll probably send out a couple emails if that's okay to the council. The other things, the employee parties on July 17th, so pencil that in. The burnout, I think, is probably going to be on the 22nd. That's usually down at the CRC, is usually where that takes place. The Widow's Lazy Daughter, that's the play. We'll send out some things regarding that. Mary Sharp puts that together. And then Pioneer Day festivities on the 24th, Police Night Out. We've gone over a lot of these different things. And then we'll be discussing Pumpkin Days, other things that we can add to the Pumpkin Walk. You know, some things we currently do, which is 3 or 4 events, and see if we can add 1, 2, or 3 other events, which could be fun during that month to expand on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
That's awesome.
So, and then if you need other events, just look in the June newsletter. There are endless things going on in the rec department, library, throughout the community.
Okay,
Oh, one other item.
city
Dates
council.
For city council.
Yeah, so I won't be here the first week of July. I don't know if you guys have conflicts, but I'm wondering kind of where we are on either holding one meeting in the middle of July or moving to the 2nd and 4th. What works best for everyone?
Either middle of July or 2nd and 4th work better for me.
Does
Yeah.
it look like we have a lot of
Actually, I
agenda items or not really?
No, not right now. It's kind of dependent on planning commission. If a lot of applications or other things come through, I'm not seeing a ton. There's probably a couple that might come up. But nothing really pressing like we had last month where we had a 14 item or 16 item agenda. That was very busy, so I apologize for that. But you're probably looking at either the 5th, which is the day after the 4th. That's pretty tough. 19th, that doesn't really conflict. But if you're going to have one meeting that month, it's up to the city council and the mayor. But you may want to shoot for like the 12th though. in the
Yeah.
middle of the month.
I lean towards the 12th and. And I mean, could we, I mean, potentially if we needed to have another city council meeting, we could.
You could on the
So
26th.
let's plan on just one on the 12th. And then if we start to see a buildup, let's do, we'll do the other one. But I think we've been able to handle those long meetings anyway. So I think that might be good to make sure that we have enough people here. So do we need to motion on that? Is that just decision? Okay, so we'll just consider that settled and let the other two know that we'll just have one on the 12th in July.
We just have to make sure that we notice that properly, that we're getting the word out very quickly.
Yeah,
So we'll work with Marie, can work with Linda to get that posted on the city's website and then any other
Okay.
changes that we have, but that's essentially what it is at that point. Let
Yeah,
the public
so-
know.
so let's plan on the 12th only. For
Cool.
July.
Okay.
Okay, anything else from the council to discuss? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn our
Move to
normal
executive.
meeting. Yeah,
Motion to adjourn and move to executive.
Second,
okay, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay,